I watched the debate between James White and Jeff Durbin and the two atheists. The video is called Atheists Unhinged, and I've linked to it in the description. And there were 2 points made several times by the atheist side, which I think the Christians didn't answer correctly. I'm a presuppositionalist, and I've had to deal with these types of arguments, and I'd like to suggest what I believe is a good answer. And I hope it can help you in the defense of the faith. Let me say first of all that this video isn't a criticism of James White or Jeff Durbin. It's very easy for me, sitting here in front of my computer, pressing pause and thinking, to come up with a better answer, especially with such a crazy debate opponent as Dr. Clark, who was very distracting. And I also want to say that I respect and appreciate the great work that Dr. White does. I have some of his books and listen regularly to the Dividing Line. I also admire Jeff for his ministry and work to save the lives of babies. This video is about the atheist claim made by both atheists that the Christians were just asserting and not providing any evidence for their assertions. If you listen to the full debate, you'll see that it's a claim made several times by the atheists. Jeff Durbin rightly says in his excellent opening statement that without the triune God of the Bible, the atheists can't account for the laws of logic or for the uniformity of nature. On the other hand, if the triune God of the Bible exists, the laws of logic and the uniformity of nature are what we would expect to see. The atheists say that the Christians don't prove their point, they just assert it, and they make this claim several times. These are the clearest examples.
But does that offer any explanatory knowledge? In other words, does it provide any reason to believe their claims? They're simply asserting that their God exists and not offering any evidence for it. As Dr. Clark pointed out, it would be like saying, oh no, it's actually Godzilla, the invisible, incorporeal being in the corner who created everything and rules our universe.
The atheists claim that the Christians have only asserted that the triune God of the Bible exists and have not demonstrated it. They haven't given any evidence for that assertion. At one point, it appears that James White gives an example of the resurrection of Christ as evidence for the Christian claims, going back to his opening statement.
You specifically said, we don't need an invisible sky fairy to tell us we are to be good to each other. So given that Stalin and Mao were both atheists and were responsible for hundreds of millions of deaths, why didn't they need a sky fairy to tell them what to do in light of what you're saying? Is there an absolute moral standard that says Auschwitz was wrong? Mao was wrong.
I do not know if there's an absolute moral standard that says Auschwitz was wrong.
So how can you condemn them?
But you've not offered us any evidence for that claim. You've simply asserted that your God exists.
If there was an empty,
what is the evidence of the existence
okay, you can
for
ask,
your God?
you can ask us those questions when it's your turn.
Sure.
But when you say what you said right now, do you not see a difference between our saying that there is an empty tomb that was prophesied beforehand, and the one who came out of that tomb gave us his law, and your argument for Godzillism?
That's not my argument.
Jeff does reassert what he said in his opening statement, that without the triune God of the Bible, the atheists can't account for the laws of logic or for the uniformity of nature. But the atheist again says he's just asserting it, not proving it.
Ultimate, Jews? What do you mean an ultimate?
Something that's true outside of your own likes and dislikes, your own experience, something that's true outside of your own community. It's true whether you like it or not. It's ultimate.
You
it's
haven't
objective.
demonstrated that you have that either. You've
Well,
simply
I've
made
told
assertions.
You, I told you that apart from the Christian God, you can't make sense of human experience, ethics, morality,
That's yet again
epistemology.
a simple
And I'm
assertion. You've
demonstrating
offered
to you,
no
and I'm
evidence for
demonstrating
that.
to you right now that we have a basis to uphold your human value and dignity.
You say you have a basis
Dan,
for it, and yet you've not provided any evidence for that basis.
We've demonstrated that we have a basis, a philosophically
You've not
consistent
demonstrated
basis.
it. You've asserted it.
Dan, if I could finish the thought, and then you could come right back and ask the question.
Hey, absolutely.
And in
you
our
just keep saying the
position,
same
with
thing,
triune
so I have to
God
make
of
sure
Scripture, we
that
have a
people know
basis
that that's not the case.
We have a basis to complain about Auschwitz. You don't.
So here's my reply. The best response, I believe, is to reply that the evidence that the atheists know what we are saying is true is that they constantly presuppose the laws of logic and the uniformity of nature every time they open their mouths. The evidence that the atheists know what we're saying is true is that they constantly presuppose the laws of logic and the uniformity of nature every time they open their mouths. Therefore, the Christian claim is not just an assertion. They provide the evidence. The atheists themselves provide the evidence they demand every time they speak. They prove that they know what the Bible says is true. They are the ones providing the evidence for the existence of the triune God of the Bible every time they speak. Because every time they think and every time they speak, they prove that they know that the laws of logic exist and are necessary, and that the uniformity of nature is a reality. If they really didn't believe that, then they wouldn't speak. And this is what Jeff said in his opening statement, that they will appeal to logic, and so we need to point it out.
Watch for the image of God to pour out of these gentlemen in every appeal that they make to what is a denial of their worldview and can only make sense in ours. When it happens, I encourage you to point it out. There it is. And there it is again. Thank you.
So it's a pity that neither Jeff nor James did just that and point out their hypocrisy. So let's be very clear about this. The atheists themselves provide the evidence they demand every time they speak. Every time they think, every time they speak, they show that they know that the laws of logic exist and are necessary, and they show that they know that nature is uniform. They demand evidence that they themselves provide throughout the debate and throughout their lives.